Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. If you work wood and build furniture, you're going to have to bore holes, possibly even in metal. I'm going to help you make sense out of what you actually need. Stay with me. I'm Rob Cosman, and welcome to my shop. We make it our job to help you take your woodworking to the next level. If you're new to our channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and don't forget to turn on the notification on your mobile device so you'll know every time we release a new video. Good? All right, back to the bench. I started woodworking professionally back in the early 1980s. And in that time, I can't tell you how many thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands of dollars I have spent on drills and drill bits. It's really confusing, and if you're just getting started in this, where do you start? I've lived through the requiring a cord, to the weak cordless, to the great cordless that we have today. As far as drill bits, I've seen them all. I think I've seen them all, or at least I've seen a lot of them. Some are great, some are good, some you want to stay away from. What I'm going to try to do is go through, and out of all these drill bits that I have, I'm going to pick out what I would consider to be this is essential, and then from there we'll go and add, well, what might you want to purchase next in terms of the type of situations you're going to get in when you're building furniture. And there is no norm. It's all over the board, particularly if you like to design your own stuff. So let's try to get started with the bare minimum. Now, before we dive into all the different types of drills, we need to spend a minute or two talking about what powers them. And I think a drill press, a stationary drill press, needs to be in that core of beginning tools. You got your table saw, you've got your jointer, maybe a chop saw, but a drill press has to be right there. There are times when you need the precision that you're going to get from a drill press. So what brand? Can't really advise on that anymore because my favorite brand is no longer in business. General, which is manufactured in Drummondville, Quebec, closed their doors several years ago. But they made great, robust machines. And what I liked most about them is that you could adjust or you could remove a lot of the run out in the quill. So when you bring this all the way down, depending on how much this moves, that's how much play you're going to have in your drill bit. But you have two mechanisms in here that you can actually lock. So if you're looking for a drill press, try to find something that allows you to close this down to tighten this up a little bit. Other than that, the capacity, the bigger the capacity, the better. You can always bring a large chuck, this is what this is called, a 3-jaw chuck, and you put your bit up in there, wind that up to tighten it. You can always put a small bit, to an extent, in a large chuck, but you can't put a large bit in a small chuck. So I would think 5/8 of an inch would be the absolute minimum if you're going to buy a drill press. If you can get a 3/4, well, that's even better. As far as whether it's a floor model or a bench model, I don't think that is going to matter too much, but if I had my choice, I would go with the floor model, a little greater capacity. As far as the horsepower, most of them have a fractional horsepower, whether it's a 1/3 or a 1/2. Some may go up to a 3/4, but I've never stalled a drill press. In fact, usually what will happen is the belts will slip before it actually stalls the motor. Speaking of which, you do want the adjustability of the speed. You turn a large diameter bit, you want it to go slow. Small diameter bits, you want them to go fast. Most use a step pulley, which simply means the speed doesn't change on the motor, but the size of the pulley driving the head is what's going to alter that speed. And this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different speeds, and that's plenty. I probably only use 1 or 2, a fast one and a slow one. Other than that, drill presses, with the exception of what I mentioned earlier about how much run out there is in the quill, that's the one thing that you really need to pay close attention to. Some have lasers on them, lights, that's all nice, but not necessarily essential. Now, the other drill you're going to want to have is something that's handheld. You're not always going to be able to take the wood to the tool. You often have to take the tool to the wood. I want to go just a little bit further on portable drills just because I'm so impressed with what's happened over the last few years. I say few years, that could be 20. It used to be, as I mentioned, if you needed power and over a long term, you had to have a corded drill. But as I said, you had to drag a cord, use an extension cord, you always had to have a chuck key. It was a pain. But today, they're making them powerful enough This is both a hammer drill and just a big, powerful drill. And you got an extra battery. By the time one wears out, the other one is fully charged. There's really no reason why I think today you need a corded drill at all. The other nice one is this one. And it has several different positions that you can turn it to. So if you've got to get into a tight spot, you've got the right angle. You've got it up like this, like that, even straight on, which I find that really convenient if you're getting in a tight spot. Now, something else that's happened of late is the impact driver. And that has been a real game changer when it comes to driving screws. So at the same time it's spinning, it's also vibrating, and it'll drive a screw where a normal, simply twisting drill will not be able to do it. Now, these are all what you might call typical, and you can buy different size batteries that'll last longer. But these real small ones, which have a tiny battery, I've been extremely impressed. Number one, they're light, convenient, you can almost put them in your pocket, but they still have a tremendous amount of power. A 12 volt used to be one of the biggest you could get. These are great. This is a regular drill. Now, that does have a 3/8 chuck, which is a bit limiting, but it's a small drill, and that's your impact version of that same size. So there's lots of them out there. I personally prefer that brand. I think it's worked great for me, and no reason to go to anything else, but get what you want. So the last category of drills are also cordless, meaning no power, just you. So this is referred to as a brace. This is a Yankee drill, and this is what we might call an egg beater style drill. I'll start over here. This is a little more towards the carpentry side because of the type of bits that it uses. Trying to drill that through a piece of hardwood is rather difficult because it just doesn't cut almost as fast as that threaded piece at the front wants to pull it through the wood. However, it is convenient, and you would lock it in place. I'll just show you real quick. It's got kind of a funny chunk of metal on the end, but you line that up with the jaws. Drop that in place. Obviously there's no slipping. Tighten it up. And then this can either be held in your hand like this, or you can press it against your chest to give it a little bit of extra pressure. You typically would spin like that. You also have a ratchet effect on there where you can adjust it so that if you're limited in the area that you can reach, you can go in. It's actually going the wrong way if I was going to be driving it in. And that allows you to get in a tight quarters. And your bits go from, I think the smallest one you can get on that style is 1/4 of an inch, and they can get up rather large. But again, better suited for softwoods. This I think is great because you can just get in places that you just cannot get with anything else. And it just works on as you push down, it twists. It also is nice because all of your drill bits are held in the handle. Just put that, and they're really easy to change. You simply slide that forward, pull it out. And I always try to remember to put it back in there. Tighten that up. Move it forward, drop that in place. Now the bits tend not to be really sharp, although they're sharp in a bowl. They don't cut quite as clean, but in a tight spot, they're great. You can get in where you just can't get with a powered drill. Hey, if you like this video, we have more. Our monthly newsletter has subscriber-only content, discounts monthly on tools, and anything we bring out that's new, subscribers get first crack at it. Click on the link below. Let's get back to work. Now the last one is probably more common or more familiar for folks. And this has the same type of a chuck, meaning there's 3 teeth in there. And you use a standard bit, whether it's a brad point. Now this has a little broken spring in there. But you would drop that in place and then tighten it up. And sink there and fire away. Now this one is an older one. It has an opportunity for a spot to keep your drill bits up in the handle. I like these older ones anyway. This one, I have one that actually has 2 different speeds. You can adjust this gear and it'll actually give you a different speed. But there's lots of torque on this. You can see how big the handle is out from the center. And it moves fairly quickly, although you're having to hold it still at the same time that you're turning it, so it's a little bit, takes a bit of getting used to. However, if you want to do things just with hand tools, it's a great option. I want to give you some specific suggestions on what you need, but I also want to more or less expose you to everything that I have here and show you how many different drill bits there are. If we start over on this side, these are brad points. So this is a steel bit. It has a center point specifically for wood, helps to hold the drill in place when it gets started. These are actually made by a company called Fish, and they're very expensive, but they are beautiful bits. This is the same thing, only this is in metric. These are in imperial sizes. These are also brad points, but they're much shorter and great for in tight places. Here's a carbide tipped drill bit, so that you can see the piece welded on the end. That's this carbide for drilling through steel. I love these. Haven't been able to find them anymore. I think it was called a speed bore. It's made by Stanley. They're really easy to sharpen. They did a wonderful job. They cut a beautiful, nice, clean hole. Weren't great for getting really deep, but lovely bits. This is a bit that typically would find in a hardware store. One of the more inexpensive, especially in large sizes. Easy to sharpen. Just not the greatest, but in a pinch they'll do. This is an old style bit that was designed to be used in a brace. These are countersunk bits that are tapered to fit they actually fit the shape of a screw, and they have the countersink head attached to them, so that in one procedure you counterbore and you also allow for the head to sit flush in the wood. These are called Forstner bits. So these are designed for larger diameter holes, cut really nice and clean, expensive. These are twist drill bits, just really long shanks for reaching in tight spots. Now over here we have what are called lettered and numbered drills. So you have your typical sizes. If you're sticking with standard or imperial, you're going from a 1/16 of an inch up to a 1/2 an inch, and on 64th of an inch increments. Over here, the letters and numbers fit all those sizes in between, so you can get just about any size you want. Not really something you're going to need in woodworking, but nice to know they're available. And then these are these are metric twist drills, and these are the same thing. I thought I had a set of, over here I've got a set of metric brad points that I already pointed out. All right, next, what do you actually need based on my experience? Okay, this is tough simply because it seems like I was always coming up against a situation where I needed some drill that I didn't have. And that's usually where you start getting off into the specialized stuff. But if I was just getting started, my first dollars I think you would want to spend on regular twist bits, and having 1/16 up through a 1/2 an inch on 64th inch increments, I think is the best way to go. These can be used for metal, plastic, or wood. If you start off with just your brad points, then you don't have anything that you can use in metal. So since this does both, I would start with that. And learn to put them back when you're done. Otherwise, you're going to have holes in your set like I do. Next thing I would do is buy the same set and only in the brad point. It makes a lot of difference when cutting in wood. Much greater performance. My next expenditure would be on large diameter Forstner bits. And I've always been a firm believer of buying quality, so you only have to buy it once. These are unbelievably expensive, but they do a beautiful job. You buy the cheaper ones, and sometimes the points aren't on center, and the drill, as it's going down, will walk to the left or right or somewhere. You never have a problem with these. So you're going to need larger diameter holes when you start building furniture. So at some point, you're going to have to invest in a set like this. So that's where I would start, and I wouldn't be very long before I got something like this. These little short drills sometimes come in handy, and those aren't very expensive. I think I would add to that, I would buy a selection of the typical size or most useful sizes, which would be 1/8, 3/16, quarter, 5/16, 3/8, 1/2 in the long ones. Numerous times I've had to go in and have the extra length, and it is really essential. And then from there, you can just start branching out. These fish bits are cut incredibly clean, but unbelievably expensive, but worth every nickel as far as I'm concerned. And then a set of the countersink and counter bore bits is great too. That's such a time saver when it comes to using screws to hold something together. At that point, you can start to buy them as you need them, but I think this would get you started and wouldn't leave you wanting terribly much. Anyway, it's an expensive process of outfitting yourself with everything you're going to need for every hole you're ever going to have to drill, but oh well. He who dies with the most tools wins. If you like my work and enjoy my style of teaching, click on any one of these videos and help take your woodworking to the next level. I've always said, better tools make the job so much easier. If you click on the link below, the chisel and plane icon, it'll take you to our site and introduce you to all the tools that we actually manufacture right here in our shop. It'll also give you information on our online and in-person workshops.